Welcome to Courageous Conversations with Lionheart Coaching Co., where we talk about the hard parts of our journey and the courage it can sometimes take to find our way back to ourselves. I'm your host, Mandie Woodard, and in this episode, for our first ever conversation, I'm going to share with you how Courageous Conversations came to be. So we're going to talk about the journey of how we got here. And then I want to share with you my purpose in wanting to have this podcast for you to listen to. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into it. Hi, friends. I am so excited to be talking to you. I want to say you have no idea, but maybe you do. Maybe you do have an idea because there was something that you wanted to do in your life and you finally did it. That's that feeling of really having this idea and this want to create and sitting on it for so long. I've been sitting on this idea for this podcast for the last 5 years, which you might be thinking, why? Why wouldn't you have started so long ago? And that's what we're going to talk about. Before I share any of that, though, I want to tell you just a little bit about who I am. I think it's important that you know who you're listening to. So, I am a lover and a fighter. I naturally want to guide people, especially in areas where I have had to suffer or work through, or struggle may be the better word. I want to help others live a life that they love. I want you to know that it's possible to live a life that you love. So naturally, I am a life coach. That is what I do for a living. I'm also a Reiki practitioner. I use that in my practice quite a bit. Reiki is energy work for anyone who is not familiar. I am a wife. I've been with my husband since I was 15 years old. And we have 3 beautiful children together. Some of my biggest life lessons actually have been learned by being a mom and a wife. And I think that's important to know that they are a huge part of my journey and how we got here. But also my childhood and the life I lived leading up to being a mom. All of it plays into how I got here. But I'm not going to tell all of that today. Today, I'm just going to take you back 5 years. 2017. This time of year, actually. I had this idea hit me out of nowhere to start a show. And I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know how it was going to come to be. But it came pouring in through a meditative state that I was in. I was actually rocking my daughter for nap time. And I had this idea hit me and I started to speak it out and things just kind of fell into place. All the right people showed up and I created a show and it went on to YouTube and it was so much fun. Probably the best time of my life was creating that show. And what happened was I had local business owners or people who have gone through hardships come and share their stories while we were in the kitchen making something that brought them comfort. And it was so great. I loved it so much. And you might be wondering, well, why did it end? We only got to film about 6 episodes, I think. They're still up on YouTube, by the way, if you want to go watch. It's youtube.com/Amanda Hoyle. But it had to end because it was a lot of work and we were not getting paid to create that. And you can't keep doing this thing when you have a family to feed, right? So at the end of 2017, when we'd finished recording, almost all the episodes had aired on YouTube. We'd uploaded them. I sat down and thought, okay, so what's the next step? What could I do that would not require this much work? Of course, a podcast is what came to my mind. And I sat and I had such an outpouring of ideas on a paper. I had 10 episodes framed out, everything that I was going to talk about, all the things. But then I got caught up and I never took the next step. I never started researching how to start a podcast. There was something in my way mentally that was keeping me from being able to do that. A whole year later, I hired my first life coach, and I told her that I loved when I had the show on YouTube. It meant the world to me. It was my favorite thing I ever created. And she's like, why aren't you doing that? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just not happening. I'm not able. I tried to restart the show so many times. I know now that is because I wasn't ready yet. I had a lot to learn. I had a lot of lessons I had to live through. And I had to get a little bit further in my journey before I could do it again. And it finally has felt right. Right enough that I have purchased a song for the intro music and bought this fancy microphone and talking to people about coming and hopping on, because I very much want this to be a conversational show. I want you to hear conversations from people who have been through things, who have really had to go through some hard stuff and have come out on the other side. So let's jump to now. Here we are. It's 2022. It's actually August 30th is the day that I'm recording this. So this year, I made a huge shift. I had a couple career changes over the last few years, and this year was a big one. So I was in a company that I did network marketing with, and I loved my time there. It was so valuable, the things that I learned and the role that I got to play within that space. But this year, I knew I needed to step out and do my own thing and start my own business. So I really jumped into life coaching. I had been life coaching over the last 5 years, a little bit here and there, but it wasn't until this year that I was ready to take the leap, get the LLC, find a place to see people in person, and all of those things that go into actually being a business owner. And so naturally, over the last few months, I've thought, okay, it's time to start the podcast. It's time to jump back into that because this is such a huge part of what I love to do. I love sitting one-on-one with people and helping them to have these breakthroughs and these realizations and shift the way they tell their story. But I also really, really love talking about this stuff where you can just tune in and listen and apply what you're hearing to your own life. And with that, I'm going to say all in perfect timing. And this is the perfect time to start this. So the lesson you can take from this episode is just knowing that sometimes the door's not opening because it's not time yet. And that might not sound like something a life coach would typically say, because most life coaches this day and age are like, you've got to bust down the door. You have to take action. Just constantly got to take action, got to take action, got to take action. And that's, I think, why it's not been time yet, because that used to be what I would say. That massive action is where you're going to see your results. And that is so true. So true. But we can't force something when it's not our time yet. And I do think you need to just listen to your intuition every day. Every day, check in with yourself. You will know when the time is right. Now, we can check in and recognize, am I not starting this because there is a limiting belief hanging around? Am I not taking action because of a story that I'm telling myself? And maybe you need to reframe it. That's where life coaching is so valuable. But the intuition, that is ultimately your tell-all. You have to check into your intuition. So as a life coach, I've found a lot this year, what I've been doing with my clients is helping them to reconnect with that part of themselves. We think we have to answer things from our mind, and we will overthink things. I'm going to be honest with you. I still overthink things. I have restarted today. This episode, I think I did 5 restarts, maybe more. I'm probably too embarrassed to tell you the actual answer. But we overthink things and we think about what other people will think and society and what we should be doing based on those things. And we get so disconnected from our gut and our intuitive centers. And then we don't listen and we tune it out. So this right here, this perfect timing, I know this is perfect timing because this is what my intuition has told me to do. So if there's something that you have been wanting to do and something just doesn't feel right, like it's just not time yet, trust that. Know that your body is going to let you know when it is time. And what I do know, honestly, what's for you can't miss you. I have no idea who might have ever said that, but I believe it. I believe that all in perfect timing and what is meant for you will not miss you. You don't get to know that answer though. You don't get to know the ahead of time. It has to just happen. And then when the moment is right, you will know. I do want to share this little tidbit too from my story because I think it's important to know why I ever wanted to start the show in the first place on YouTube. So my husband and I, we have moved a few times now. Each time we have moved, it has been after I have had this big awakening, after watching Tony Robbins, who is one of the greatest motivational speakers, thought leaders of our time. I think, anyways, that's an opinion. But every time I have listened to him, it has shifted me and I've realized that I'm not in alignment with myself. I'm not happy where I'm at. And then we make a change. And the house that I am in right now, I manifested when my oldest, who is now 15, was 2 years old. And that's what I really wanted to share. I wanted people to know that you don't have to stay stuck in your reality. You don't have to stay where you are if you're not happy. So, when my son was 2, we lived in a townhouse. And I didn't love it. I wasn't crazy about the neighborhood. The energy felt really off. Knowing what I know now, I know that I was really actually feeling something. I thought I was just crazy back then. But he was sitting on my lap and we were waiting for my husband to come home from work and he was super bored. So we pulled out some crayons. We started drawing on a piece of paper and I decided to draw the house that I wanted to be in with him, that I wanted to be able to raise him in. And when my husband walked through the door, I said, "Take this to Daddy and tell him to buy us this house." And so my son did. He ran over to my husband and he was like, "Daddy, buy us this house." And my husband says, "Yeah, I'm going to have to make a lot more money if I'm ever going to buy a house like that." And, we kind of laughed about it. And I felt a little defeated, but also hopeful for some reason. I think I just knew we weren't going to stay there, even though our financial situation was not good at the time. We barely had money to survive. I almost got on government assistance a couple times, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I would have had to lie on my paperwork and say that me and my husband weren't together because our system is just so crazy. I don't know. We won't get into that, but we put the picture on the refrigerator and it stayed there until we finally moved. And then it went into a box. And we went from that house, after having listened to Tony Robbins, we moved. And the way everything worked out was just so crazy. Didn't think it was going to be possible. And then it was. And we go into this house, this other house, and we loved it there, but we realized that it was actually smaller than our townhouse. So after the third baby comes along, we're like, yeah, this is a little tight here. And we're like, you know what? I don't want to be in this neighborhood. This is not our final house. We have to move again. And guess what? I had watched Tony Robbins' I Am Not Your Guru on Netflix. And that's what prompted it. It's like, dude, we're here again. Here we are again. We're not happy. We've got a situation. I mean, there's so much more that plays into this. I'm going to leave all those silly little details out. But we decided we had to make a move again. So we did. And when we moved into this house, the house that I'm sitting in now as I record this, we unpacked what was on the refrigerator, that box that picture had gone into. And I looked at it and I was like, holy crap, I drew this house. This is the house that I wanted to raise my children in, and we're here. And it felt so profound for me because I realized that we created the reality that we wanted. And we were very young parents. I was a teenager when I got pregnant with my oldest, and the odds were against us. My husband didn't even start his job, his career, until after my son was born. So whereas a lot of parents, when they start their lives, they've been working, they have a nest egg, maybe, I don't know. It just, that's what you're supposed to do. I'm saying that in air quotes because what are we supposed to do? It's who's to say? But we had so much stacked against us. We were not financially stable in any sense of the word. I had to go shopping in my mom's pantry a couple times. I remember sobbing in her kitchen like, I can't even afford toilet paper. I can't even afford peanut butter. And then we managed to get here. And I just thought, people need to know. They have to know that they don't have to stay where they are. So I'm rocking my daughter in 2017, and I am meditating slightly. And the idea hit me of how to share this information. And then that day, I messaged a friend who then talked to her husband. Next thing you know, we're having a meeting. Next thing you know, I'm meeting with a business owner, a local business owner. He agrees. Somebody in the little cafe where I was talking to him overheard the conversation and was like, everything you just said to him, I needed to hear today. And you just proved to me that divine timing and the universe is always going to lead you to where you need to be. And it was just such a profound time. And then, of course, we got to work. We got to work and we started recording these episodes. And it was just so freaking cool. So I wanted to share that because I wanted you to hear about the origin story, I guess. And Courageous Conversations, the origin story started 5 years ago. And now here we are, all in perfect timing. Here we are. So why am I naming it Courageous Conversations? I want to share that with you too. My business, my coaching business is called Lionheart Coaching Co. And Lionheart is something that has come up for me many times in my life. I actually have a Lionheart tattoo on my arm. Completely separate, the idea for that to be the name of my coaching business came to me without even thinking about that. But I have it on my arm because I have to remember how much courage I have. And I want my clients to know how much courage that they really actually have. And it takes courage to own your story, and it takes courage to do something different and to go on that journey to find yourself. We are conditioned from a very young age, and we lose who we are. We really do. And to find your way back to that person and to own those parts of you, the parts that people have said are not good, which are actually beautiful. We are all so beautiful in all our different ways. I know that might sound silly to say that, but I truly believe it. To be able to own that and accept who you are and then lean in takes a lot of courage. And that's what I want people to come on here and talk about, is the courage it took for them to make their life shift. And maybe it's in starting a business. Maybe it's in beginning a healing journey. Whatever it may be. Maybe they've had a hardship they have to overcome. I want you to be able to hear these stories, and I want you to be able to connect with my guests and get something out of it. And that is the purpose. That is my ultimate purpose with this, is for you to be able to listen and apply it to your own life so that you can take action when the time is right. Now, listen, when you're starting this journey back to yourself, I always think the time is right. It's just how much or how many steps do you take in? And that may be a slow process. That may be a really fast process. It's so different for everyone. All of our journeys are unique and beautiful in their own way, and none of them are going to look like someone else's. But my hope is you're going to hear someone else's journey and then have the courage to take action and really feel aligned with yourself. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I hope you will hit subscribe. I hope you might even want to share this episode. And I hope you know how loved you are and how important and how valuable you are. All right, friends, that's all for me for today. Thank you again for listening. I look forward to many more conversations with you.